What's poppin', dogs? Mr. Allen here with some writing of trig functions given a graph. We're going to do it for both sine and cosine here, all right? So to stay organized, I'm going to do my sine graphs in blue. I'm going to do my cosine graphs in yellow, and anything that's common between the two of them that they share, because some of these equations can have some of the same numbers here, we'll do that in green. And the first thing I'm going to do is jot down my midline, which looks like it's going to be -2 here. Y equals -2 is my midline. Goes right through the middle there. Boom, boom, and I'll write y equals -2. So they both share the same midline. It's just cosine starts above it or below it. Sine starts on it. So what's my amplitude now that I see this? Are they going to have the same amplitude? Yes. Sine and cosine have the same amplitudes. Okay, so my amplitude here looks like I'm 5 above the midline. Looks like I'm 5 below the midline. I think 5 is my amplitude here. All right, so oops, erase that guy. There we go. 5. What's my period? How long does this thing take to repeat? I think it's easiest to see on this one with the cosine graph because I can go from high point to high point, and it appears to be 2 pi for this one. And it's going to be the same thing for my sine graph. I'll even do that in light blue now. Sine goes from the midline, and then it will go on the midline, passes through it once, and then back to the midline. That's also 2 pi. And I'll outline my cosine graph while we're at it. Whee! That's one period of the cosine graph. All right, so period, 2 pi. Cool. So no multiplier needed, right? All of our trig functions start at, our sine and cosine functions start as a period of 2 pi, so no multiplier needed, which is nice. Now, do we need a phase shift? Well, for cosine, it does not appear so, right? It's on that y-axis, above the y-axis, as a cosine graph should start, so no phase shift. But for sine, I have to shift to the left pi over 2. So let's write that down. So for sine, oops, I'm going to get in the way there. Sine is left pi over 2. And then cosine, we said, is none. Okay, I think we're ready to write our equations here. So we got y equals 5 is my amplitude, sine, and then no multiplier, right? But I do have a phase shift, so it's going to be theta, and the phase shift is pi over 2, left pi over 2, so plus pi over 2. And then we have a midline of -2, so down 2 or -2. There we go. It's beautiful. How about my cosine graph? Well, it's still going to start as y equals, and then 5 cosine. No multiplier and no phase shift, so just theta, and then -2. That's it. That's it. It's awesome. Let's do it just for fun here. Just for fun, okay? Let's say we wanted to do a different sine graph. Could we do a different sine graph here? And I will go with, I think still, let's just go still with blue. I guess maybe I could do a thicker shade, or maybe just a different shade of blue. I'll just do regular blue. All right, where else could I start with the sine graph? It's got to be on the midline, right? I could have shifted to the right pi over 2, couldn't I? I could have started right here, yeah? So let's see if I can just carefully erase that blue. Boom. And that guy. And that guy. Let's say I start there. That means I'm going to do a full period by going like that. Okay? Arrowing down. All right. So now, what's the only thing that's going to change? Ooh, 2 things actually. Different phase shift, and I'm starting by going down, so it's going to be negative. So instead, what we're going to have is this, and I'll actually write them down here. It's going to be y equals -5 sine theta minus pi over 2, because we're going to the right pi over 2, -2. So slightly different, still 100% correct. Kind of helps us see those things and see like what the negative does, what the phase shift does, how that all works. So sometimes it helps to do a few different examples. Let's try another cosine now. Let's see if I can carefully erase the yellow. Whoop, whoop. Let's say we want to start, I guess let's start, how about below the midline? I'll go to this point. Could I start right there if I really wanted to? I could, and then my full period would be this guy right there. So now for this one, it's going to be negative because it's starting below the midline, so -5 cosine, and then I'm going to have, let's see here, no period multiplier still, right? But I do have a phase shift, left pi, just pi, so plus pi, and then my midline, -2. So those are 2 totally workable sine and cosine functions, not necessarily the most ideal, but it's really whatever you see first, right? And then you can write one of those. But I always go for no phase shift if possible and no reflection if possible. Those are my usual go-tos. It's less stuff to put in the equation, less stuff to screw up. Let's do one more example here. This bad boy, this one looks pretty dope. Oh boy, these points are not even on the labeled points. Interesting. So I'm going to go throw in some green here. Let's get our midline going. Let's calm down here because it looks a little scary, but I think we'll be all right. You see it? There we go. Now I got nice and close. And now my amplitude just looks like 4 up, 4 down, 4 up. Okay, so we're 4 for our amplitude. Good thing I didn't make any mistakes here. That's the same for both. What's my period? Well, high point's a high point. That's going to be a cosine graph. I'm going to go high to high right here. Oops, that was supposed to be blue. There we go. Or sorry, yellow for cosine. High point to high point. Okay. And then, so that'd be something like that. How much am I shifting? Well, right in between negative pi over 2 would be negative pi over 4. Okay, so we're shifting by pi over 4. But it still appears that from negative pi over 4, and then this would actually be over here between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi, that'd be 7 pi over 4. I'm just thinking about my unit circle here for those values. That's 2 pi apart, right? That's 8 pi over 4 apart. So 2 pi is still my period, which we figured out from the cosine, but that will apply to both. So 2 pi, no multiplier needed, but we do have a phase shift, and our midline is y equals 3. So what's my phase shift? Well, I already know my cosine. I got it circled, so let's just take care of that. I'm going left pi over 4. So cosine, left pi over 4. And then what's my sine one? Where would I want to start for sine? It's got to be on the midline. I could shift to this point, but I feel like then I have to do a negative out front. How about I just shift all the way over here? Are we cool with that? Or do we not like that? We'll do that, okay? I guess nobody said, okay, nobody said anything. All right. So sine is going to be left. How much is that? Well, between negative pi and negative pi over 2, that's going to be negative 3 pi over 4. Again, I'm just thinking about my unit circle values here, or just like between 0.5 and 1 is 0.75 or 3/4. All right, so left 3 pi over 4. If you weren't sure what was there or whatever, like you could have gone to this point here and just done positive pi over 4 or right pi over 4. You just need to throw the negative out in front. All right, so here we go. Here's my sine graph. Whee, up to there. Cool. Let's write them both. So my sine is y equals, it's positive. The amplitude is 4, so sine. Now my multiplier, don't have one. It's a period of 2 pi. Cool. But I do have that phase shift, so plus 3 pi over 4, so we can go left 3 pi over 4, and then my midline's 3, so plus 3. You dig? I dig. Cosine graph. All the same stuff here, except for my phase shift is different. We're just going left pi over 4. So y equals, it's an amplitude of 4, cosine of theta plus, so we're going to the left, pi over 4, plus 3. There we go, folks. There we go. The only thing that would have changed here, like if I wanted to start, I'll do it in orange now because it's going to get a little messy. If I started right here for sine, then I'd have y equals, it'd be a negative 4 sine of theta, and then I'd have minus pi over 4 because I'm going to the right pi over 4, but my midline would then still be 3. So that would work just fine for a sine graph. That would look something like that. But otherwise, a lot of different possibilities, right? Those are the 2 points that I looked at first because it's a positive graph and it kind of, your eyes are drawn to that normal shape. So there we go. All right. Hopefully those help, guys. I know it's a little tricky doing that, but colors help, I feel like, in outlining the graph to find your period and all that stuff and some of the phase shifts and whatnot. So, all right. Thanks for watching. Stay awesome, be awesome, and subscribe. See you later.